Hey there, it's Ben Halsall here, and here in this tutorial we're going to have a look at the CINEPUNCH bundle, and we're going to take a quick overview of the amazing amount of transitions, color effects, film effects, and different elements that are in this pack. And then we're going to take a deep dive into a couple of different elements which I think you'll be interested to see, and have a look at how we can work with it a little bit. So essentially this bundle covers a whole array of different things that you'll need to be doing as you develop your editing in Final Cut Pro 10. And having had a look through the bundle, all the crazy claims here of thousands of effects and transitions and all that kind of stuff and the different elements are actually true. There's actually a ton of useful stuff in this pack. So let's dive in and have a look. So we're going to just jump to our Finder here. So when you first open up CINEPUNCH for Final Cut Pro 10, the one thing to note that's important is that this contains a lot of different plugins. It's not just one plugin for Final Cut Pro 10. It doesn't just contain plugins such as transitions and generators. It also contains some elements such as sound effects, video elements like fire and oil and smoke, and a whole range of stuff that you'll find useful in your edits. So if we jump into the transitions and effects and generators first of all, then basically in here we've got 3 folders of different plugins. So when we double click into effects, you'll see we've got things like the Disruption VFX panel. I've had a quick look at the LUT master as well. We're not going to dive into that in this tutorial, but it's super useful if you want to start working with LUTs in your videos in an affordable way. We're going to jump into the Disruption VFX panel. And what you'll see in here is we've got these different sets of plugins. So if we double click in here, each of these folders is its own series of plugins. So I've had a look at the glitch effects plugins, and basically for each one of these folders you want to be dragging it into your effects folder in the motion templates in the movies folder on Mac OS X. So we're going to jump in and we'll just grab this Havoc Disruption effects, and I'm actually going to make a copy of this. So Command and C, and we'll click in here and paste this in. And I haven't had a look at this one yet, but basically once we paste that in, we'll see this list of different effects in Final Cut Pro 10. So we'll jump in here and have a look. So we'll jump into our effects on the bottom right, and we'll scroll down to the Havoc Disruption effects. So you can see here we've got a whole bunch of different effects. When we hover over, it's going to show us a little preview. We've got some glitchiness and then some distortion in there as well. And essentially we can grab any one of these, we'll drop it onto our first video clip here, and you can see it plays back quite nicely. So we have this little glitchy disruption effect that's popped on there. So with these effects, we jump into the video options here. You can see we've got a whole bunch of different options here, and we can change the scale of our effect, so it's bigger or smaller. We can change the blend mode, so how it overlays, so the kind of way that it's affecting the video below. So we've got these nice kind of blend mode options. We'll leave it on overlay, which is the default. And then we've got some other distortion options down here as well. So we can add waviness to our static. We can add some roll to it as well, either way. And then we can also modify a few of these other options down here as well. So you can see we've got things like scan line, brightness and stuff like that, which also appear in some of the effects. We've got some camera shake in here too, so we can make the camera shaky. So you can see now we've really kind of given a lot of glitchiness to that particular piece of footage with a few quick clicks. So a lot of these effects are going to be useful if you want that glitchy look, that kind of disrupted look to your video, perhaps for transition, perhaps for other elements of your video. Let's have a look at a couple of other things that we've got here. So if we come back to our options here, you can see we've got some other grunge effects and some other glitch effects and some other disruption effects in here too. We've also got a VFX Effects Builder. So let's have a quick look at that. We'll drag this across, and I'm going to hold down the Option key just to duplicate that into there. I want to keep my folder intact here. So we'll come back into Final Cut Pro, and we'll scroll down here and we'll go to the VFX Effects folder. We'll drag this onto another part of our video here, and you can see again we've got a whole bunch of really useful kind of options for modifying the effects that are being used in that VFX effect. Now one thing I would say is that when I moved this across, I had to create a VFX Effects folder to put this effect into. So some of the folders you can drag the whole folder across, but some you'll need to actually make a folder in your effects folder in here in order to get it to work. So if we jump back into Final Cut Pro, you can see we can modify the opacity. We can turn on some different options here for kind of blurring the edges of our VHS. We can increase the kind of staticness of our VHS. And then we've got a whole bunch of other options as well for increasing the waviness, changing the roll, and so on and so forth for our VHS here. So when we roll it here, if we actually come back and add a keyframe and then come forward and then roll it down, it will move and animate as we play it back. So we've got a nice VHS effect there. We've got a nice kind of glitch distortion effect there at the beginning. So let's have a look at a couple of other options that we have here as well. So I've already installed the Filmmaker Generators in here. So if we come down here, you can see we've got these film grains, scratch and dirt and dust generators. And so if we drag this over our last video here, we'll just do a short version of this. Just use Option and the right square bracket to trim that down. We get the logo up there by default. And then if we come here, we can turn the logo off and we'll get this kind of scratch and dirt effects on there. So we can add more grain here. Okay. We can increase the scale of that grain. You can see the grain there. And then when we play this back, what you'll notice is it doesn't really have the effect that we want. And what I found with these particular effects is that we then need to go into our blend mode and darken things or use an overlay in order to get it to kind of add that grain and to work a bit better. So let's just accentuate this a bit more. So we'll add more grain here and we'll increase the scratch and dirt and these other options. So you can see basically this is adding layers of effect over this. So you can see now we have to play around with these different options within that particular plugin to actually get the effect that we want. So there's a little bit of figuring out when you first start to use some of these plugins, but there's a lot of detail in them that will be really useful in a lot of different kind of filmmaking scenarios. And you can see here when we change those blend modes, so if we go from overlay to darken, we're going to get, again, different kind of effects on our videos here and a different sort of look and feel. So we can really kind of control it quite nicely, and then obviously we can blend this with other effects in the background as well. I am going to drop down the scale here, and then we'll scroll down here and we'll just have a look at this leak punch effect. We'll drag this on top here. So essentially here what we have is once we turn the logo off, we have a series of different light leaks. So now with these light leaks we can mix them here. So you can see I can turn down leak 1 and I can increase leak 2 or 6, and we're getting different kind of variations on that light leak kind of theme, and you might have to scroll through just to kind of see what's happening with them. And I've also found with these light leaks, then come into the video options and working with the subtract, darken or overlay options here will help you to get a bit more out of those light leaks. So one other thing we can do as well is we can keyframe these light leaks as well. So if we turn on a keyframe at the beginning here for this leak 9 and then come to the middle somewhere and then we'll turn it off, and somewhere just before that we'll start to ramp up leak 11. That's quite nice. So I'm going to add a keyframe here for this and I'll leave it dialed down at first, and then we'll come forward and we'll increase this up quite a bit. So we're going to switch from one light leak to another. So you can see as I'm playing it through up in the inspector those elements animating, so one dialing down and one dialing up, which just gives us an opportunity to vary things through time as we're kind of adding them to our clips. So let's have a look at a couple other things here. So if we come back to our folders, you can see in these folders as well, if I just right click here and come up to my CINEPUNCH FCPX options, we've got these big packs. And these big packs are a little bit different to the kind of standard plugins you might be buying for Final Cut Pro 10. So basically in these we have a series of links and downloads to different video elements that we can include within our project. So if we go to Cinedust, for instance, you can see we'll go to 4K. You can see in here we've got a 5 gig download, and basically we're going to be getting some video that we can then overlay onto our videos. Now I've already downloaded Cinedust, so we'll come back in here into the big packs and up one more. So I've made a folder called Big Packs Downloads, and I double click in here and I've got some of the files I've downloaded. So I've got sound packs, we'll have a look at those in a minute. We've got some foggy atmosphere, and then if we go to my downloads folder here, I've got the Cinedust that I downloaded as well. So if we double click into Cinedust, you can see we've got just a whole series of different kind of videos that we can use, that we can overlay onto our videos in Final Cut Pro 10. So let's have a look at these fine particles. Okay. Alright, so if we drag this to the right, we'll jump back into Final Cut Pro, and we could go through importing this and all that kind of stuff, but I'm just going to drag it down to my timeline here. And it's 4K, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than this for the moment. So actually we can highlight this and turn off fitting, so change it to none, and it will be big enough for my 1080p video here. But basically you can see at the moment I've just got this black layer with these particles on there. So in order to kind of make this work, I'm going to go to my video options up here, scroll up, and again we're going to use the blend modes, and we'll go to screen, and then we'll play this through, and you can see now we've got some nice little bits of kind of dust floating across the screen. But actually if we move this to this other video over here, we'll get a bit of a better result. So you can see we just get that nice little bit of dust floating. So if we come back to these folders, let's go back up and we'll jump into this Light Falls folder, and we'll drag this one on. And again, if we scroll down, we'll turn fitting off to none, or we could change it to fill, and that would fill our frame. And we can shorten this down. We'll scroll up and change this to screen, and so now you can see that one's working a bit better with this piece of video. So we're getting a nicer kind of effect of this light dropping. And let's try it on the drone footage we've got here. So you can play around with these obviously and find out which one is working best. There are also some other big packs that I downloaded as well. So we've got the Fire Pack 2. So if we take one of these, we'll just drop it on here, and these are 4K. And we'll just change this to fill. We'll trim this down. And again, to get this to kind of sit over the top of this video, we can use add or lighten or screen, and it will place that flame over the top. And obviously if we layer these and just kind of, I've just offset it there deliberately, which we have to go this way, then we'll get a kind of build up of different layers of flames. So we get that nice easy composite because we've got the clean black background on these, which we see when we're on normal, and then we can use these blend modes to kind of add to the layers below. So let's come back to our packs here. So we've had a look at a couple of effects, some generators, some of the video big packs that are included in there as well. So we've got our fire packs, we've got the foggy pack, and maybe this will be better suited to our outrigger canoe. So let's try this fog over here on this video. We'll get it to fill. We'll change the blend mode to screen, and we'll play this through. And you can see now with those particles and the fog there, we're getting quite a nice effect there as well. And maybe the fog would work nicely here too. Let's have a peek. So we'll play this through, and we're not quite getting the effect there that we would want, but actually in this first video it's working quite nicely, and with a little bit of color correction in the background we can get some nice effects. So let's come back and have a look at one other thing in here. So we've had a look at generators, effects, and now we're going to have a look at some transitions in here. So if we right click here and come back up to our CINEPUNCH main folder, we're going to come into our transitions, effects and generators folder. And in our transitions, you can see if we double click in here, we have a lot of nice different kind of transitions that we can work with and play with. And if we jump into our transitions folder here in our motion templates folder, we can just drag any one of these into our folders. So let's have a look at a couple here. So we'll try a zoom pan. Let's try the slide projector style. And again, I'm just holding down Option to duplicate these across. I've already got the sliced options in there. That one's quite nice. We don't have glitches in there. Let's have a little look at that one. And we'll have a look at the leaks transition as well. So now if we come here, we'll just have a quick look at some of these effects. So we'll come back into Final Cut Pro, and we will see some of those transitions popping across on the right hand side. You can see we've already got the sliced one there. When we have these layered effects, we always need to set this up so it's a little bit longer when we're going to add a transition, because now I'm going to do Option and G to turn that into a compound clip, which is going to allow me, and here again, Option and G, now to actually add a transition between the layered effects. And I'm just going to shorten these down so I've got a little bit overlap between those clips. So we'll have a look at the exposure blurs first. We'll just choose exposure blur 3. We'll drag this across. Quite nice. And then we'll scroll down and we'll have a look at one of the zoom pans. So we've got zoom pan down, zoom pan left, zoom pan up, and zoom pan left. So let's choose zoom pan right. We'll play this through. And that's actually pretty nice. So let's have a look at the slide projector styles. Let's grab this first one, but first we'll just trim down the clip we're going to add it to here. We'll play this through. And that's quite nice. And we can obviously zoom in here. If we trim these clips a little bit, we can stretch out that and then play this through. So again, nice and smooth, really nice transition there. So let's have a look at one more. We've got our leaks one here. So let's group these two together, Option and G. I'll trim this down a little bit. And we'll use leak transition 4. We'll play this through. That's quite nice. And we'll choose another one for this next one. Let's go for leak transition 7 here. And we'll play this through. Nice. So we've got a few kind of nice transitions there. And maybe they're not on the right edit point, but you kind of get an idea of just the real range of different things that we have in this pack. Now, one other thing that is worth mentioning as well, we had a look at the Filmmaker VFX toolkits. We've got this CINEPUNCH generator, and then also in our pack here, I've downloaded a couple of the sound effects. So if we come up to our CINEPUNCH FCPX, we'll come into our big packs downloads, and we're going to have a look at the sound pack. So basically in here, we'll just go to our column view. We can go into the SoundPunch 24-bit WAVs, and in here you can kind of get a sense of the different effects that we've got. So we'll just jump into a few of these. We've got some sweeps, some horns, some glitch swipes, And so you get a sense of just the real range of different things that there are in this pack. I definitely recommend taking a look at it. There's a ton of stuff that I haven't explored yet, but I definitely will be over the coming weeks. So if you've got any questions, then drop one below in the comments. I look forward to your questions and comments as always. And hopefully this has given you a kind of good insight into the CINEPUNCH bundle, kind of what's available in there, the real range of different effects, transitions, plugins, the different elements in terms of video elements such as fire and smoke and particles, as well as some kind of cool audio effects. It's really a ton of stuff to explore, which for the price tag seems kind of ridiculous that there's that much stuff in there. But definitely check it out. Take a look at the tutorials as well and the other stuff that's online. This is available for Final Cut Pro 10 and also for Premiere Pro as well. If you have any questions, like I said, just let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you on the next tutorial.